Hello, I'm Dr Rob Yeung, an organisational psychologist and author of How to Win the Argument, the Pitch, the Job, the Race. And I'm going to talk to you now about how to win a pitch. But first, let me tell you a story which happened to me quite a few years ago, actually when I just graduated from university and I was looking for a job as a management consultant. I thought management consultancy sounded interesting and it was supposed to be well paid. So I got in touch with a recruitment consultant who got me an interview with a small firm of management consultants. Great, so I bought a suit, I polished my shoes, and I went along and I met the interviewer, a woman, and after exchanging pleasantries, as you do, we sat down and she began her first line of questioning. She said, "As you know, we are a small firm of management consultants, so why would you want to work for us rather than one of the large established players like McKinsey or KPMG?" Now, it was a good question, but unfortunately, I hadn't actually thought through what the answer might be, because in either my ignorance or perhaps arrogance, I'd assumed that just because I had a great scholastic track record and I'd done really well at university, that anyone would be falling over to hire me. So I kind of made something up on the spot. It wasn't a very good answer. And unfortunately, the interview went downhill from there, and unsurprisingly, I didn't get the job. But why am I telling you this story? Well, I actually tell this story quite a lot when I'm talking at careers fairs or when I'm talking to graduates at university about to embark on the job market. Because the point I want to make is that it's really important to prepare before each interview. Now, if I went to a careers fair and I said to the audience, "You've got to prepare before an interview," it sounds trite, it sounds like a patronizing message. But by telling a story of how I made that mistake once, then it comes across as much more believable, it's much more memorable. And actually, research tells us that this is exactly the case too. So when we are pitching, when we are trying to influence people or persuade them to do something, whether that's buying something from us or doing something that we'd like them to do, then actually people don't really pay that much attention to facts, to statistics, to our opinions. What often is much more persuasive is stories. So my advice to you is to tell more stories in whatever line of work you may be in. So of course, if you're in sales and you're pitching to a client or a customer, don't just talk about when your company was founded and in theory what you could do for a client or customer. Tell a story about how a similar client or customer actually was faced with a similar situation, and tell your audience exactly what you did to sort a situation out for a previous customer. If you're trying to persuade a boss or a colleague that they should perhaps buy a new piece of technology or kit, then again, by all means have data in your slide presentation, but also include a story about perhaps how you and a colleague were working on something, but you were frustrated, you couldn't do it, or perhaps how you could have actually helped a customer, but you couldn't because you just didn't have this piece of kit. Or say you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to persuade investors to invest in your business. Again, don't just say, in theory, this is our business plan, in 5 years we want to do this and that. Yes, there will be an element of that, but tell a story. What brought you into this field of work? What excites you personally about it? Tell the story of how you won your first customer. Or if you're, say, running a charity and you're trying to get donors to part with their cash so you can go save lives and change people's futures. Again, don't just talk about the many hundreds of thousands of starving children there are out there or how many educational futures you could change. Tell the story of how your charity has helped one village or one family or just one single person, because that will be so much more evocative, so much more memorable, and ultimately so much more persuasive than throwing lots of facts and statistics out at people. So my recommendation to you is, if you're giving, say, an hour-long presentation, make sure there's at least 2 or 3 stories in there, little anecdotes, to bring your statistics and presentation to life. And that is how you will win more pitches. So I'm Dr. Rob Yeung, author of How to Win the Argument, the Pitch, the Job, the Race, and there's much more in the book, of course.